beautiful people. And I still forgot it. Audrey Shalom, Joy, Grand Rising. Hold on, y'all. Forgot my address. It's upstairs. I'll be right back. All right, y'all. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Trina, hey, girl, hey. That's why, boo. All right, y'all. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. Nikki, good day. It is January the 18th, 2022. Day number 5 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count. It is day 1025. Today we're reading Genesis 19, 20, and 21. And we start the preface of my big toe. I think it's the preface, or is it the intro? I think it's the preface. Synopsis. I'm sorry. Get a synopsis. Well, it's a synopsis, then it's the preface. Okay. Yeah. Well, technically, they got the acknowledgements. I ain't gonna read the acknowledgements. If y'all want to read the acknowledgements, y'all can. He's just going giving his thanks for hired help, family, non-contributors, major contributors, the one, fellow travelers. Okay. All right, y'all. So let me see. Let me see. There we go. I'll type it in there. Paste it here. And sorry, I ain't do this earlier. I got it all prepped, then I had to step away and go do something real quick. Boom, there we go. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and do the Shema before we get started. All right, y'all remember the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, a call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah your God as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is one God. And you must love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah your God will soon bring you into the land that he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods that you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah your God who lives among you is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah your God as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey all the commands of Yahuwah your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that Yahuwah swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given unto us. All right, beautiful people, so let's get right to it. Genesis chapter 19. Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. Hezekiah, shalom, shalom. That evening, the two angels came to the entrance of the city of Sodom. Lot was sitting there, and when he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Then he welcomed them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, come to my home and wash your feet and be my guests for the night. You may then get up early in the morning and be on your way again. Oh, no, they replied. We'll just spend the night out here in the city square. But Lot insisted. So at last they went home with him. Lot prepared a feast for them, complete with fresh bread made without yeast, and they ate. But before they retired for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them. So Lot stepped outside to talk to them, shutting the door behind him. Please, my brothers, he begged, don't do such a wicked thing. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. First of all, bro, don't volunteer me for nothing. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do with them as you wish. But please, leave these men alone, for they are my guests and are under my protection. Stand back, they shouted. This fellow came to town as an outsider, and now he's acting like our judge. We'll treat you far worse than those other men. And they lunged toward Lot to break down the door. But the 2 angels reached out, pulled Lot into the house, and bolted the door. Then they blinded all the men, young and old, who were at the door of the house, so they gave up trying to get inside. Meanwhile, the angels questioned Lot. Do you have any other relatives here in the city? They asked. Get them out of this place, your sons-in-laws, sons, daughters, or anyone else, for we are about to destroy this city completely. The outcry against this place is so great that it has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot rushed out to tell his daughter's fiancé, quick, get out the city. The Lord is about to destroy it. But the young men thought he was only joking. At dawn, the next morning, the angels became insistent. Hurry, they said to Lot, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Get out right now, or you will be swept away in the destruction of the city. When Lot still hesitated, the angels seized his hand and the hands of his wife and daughters and rushed them to safety outside the city. For the Lord was merciful. When they were safely outside of the city, one of the angels ordered, run for your lives, and don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away. Oh, no, my Lord, Lot begged. You've been so gracious to me and saved my life, and you have shown such greatness, but I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster would catch up to me there, and I would soon die. See, there is a small village nearby. Please, let me go there and stick it. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved. Now, I've always thought about this. What kind of crazy reasoning was this, right? You saying that this fire and brimstone going to catch up to you in the mountains that's further away, but it's not going to catch you in this close little valley. I could never understand this particular reasoning of Lot. All right, the angel said, I will grant your request. I will not destroy the little village, but hurry, escape to it, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. This explains why that village was known as Zoar, which means little place. Lot reached the village just as the sun was rising over the horizon. Then the Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from the sky on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them along with the other cities and villages in the plain, wiping out all the people and every bit of vegetation. But Lot's wife looked back as she was following behind him, and she turned into a pillar of salt. Abraham got up early that morning and hurried out to the place where he had stood in the Lord's presence. Then he looked out across the plain toward Sodom and Gomorrah and watched as columns of smoke rose from the cities like smoke from a furnace. But God had listened to Abraham's request and kept Lot safe, removing him from the disaster that engulfed the cities on the plain. Lot and his daughters, Yahuwah is one. Shalom, shalom. Yes and amen. May we all be filled with the great spirit of Yahuwah. Afterward, Lot left Zoar because he was afraid of the people there. And he went to live in a cave in the mountains with his 2 daughters. One day, the older daughter said to her sister, there are no men left anywhere in this entire area, so we can't get married like everyone else. And our father will soon be too old to have children. Come, let's get him drunk with wine, and then we will have sex with him. That way we will preserve our family line through our father. So that night, they got him drunk with wine, and the older daughter went in and had intercourse with her father. He was unaware of her lying down or getting up again. The next morning, the older daughter said to her younger sister, I had sex with our father last night. Let's get him drunk with wine again tonight, and you go in and have sex with him. Every time I read this, I just want to throw up from the deep down pits of my shanana. That way, we will preserve our family line through our father. So that night, they got him drunk with wine again, and the younger daughter went in and had intercourse with him. As before, he was unaware of her lying down or getting up again. As a result, both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their own father. When the older daughter gave birth to a son, she named him Moab. He became the ancestor of the nation now known as the Moabites. When the younger daughter gave birth to a son, she named him Ben-Ami. He became the ancestor of the nation now known as the Ammonites. Next chapter, chapter 20 of Genesis. Abraham deceives Abimelech. Abraham moved south of the Negev and lived for a while between Kadesh and Shur, and then he moved on to Gerar. While living there as a foreigner, Abraham introduced his wife Sarah by saying, "She is my sister." So King Abimelech of Gerar sent for Sarah and brought her to him at his palace. But that night God came to Abimelech in a dream and told him, "You are a dead man, for that woman you have taken is already married." But Abimelech had not slept with her yet, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Didn't Abraham tell me she is my sister?" And she herself said, "Yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence. My hands are clean." And this goes back to the story. And well, all of this in Genesis plus a whole lot more. Genesis is really like cliff notes of a way bigger story, y'all. Go to the Legends of the Jews, and that's what I mentioned the other day when he was trying to touch Sarah and stuff, and the angel kept striking him, smacking his hand and stuff. That's why he said, "I act in complete innocence." He told me that was his sister, so I thought I was pushing up on a single woman, you know. So, but y'all got to go read the whole story. It's quite hilarious to me. And she herself said, "Yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence. My hands are clean." In the dream, God responded, "Yes, I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from sinning against me and why I did not let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, and I will pray for you, for he is a prophet." Now return the woman to her husband, and he will pray for you, for he is a prophet. Then you will live. But if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and all your people will die. Abimelech got up early the next morning and quickly called all his servants together. When he told them what had happened, his men were terrified. Then Abimelech called for Abraham. "What have you done to us?" he demanded. "What crime have I committed that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of this great sin? No one should ever do what you have done. Whatever possessed you to do such a thing?" Not only was Abimelech being harassed, so to speak, by the angels, but his men on guard and the nation was being shaken because of Sarah being in his possession and him trying to push up on her. Y'all should go read the story. We read through it once. I ain't gonna read through it again, but it's there. Go read it. You can go to sacredtext.com and type in the Legends of the Jews. I'll leave the link again today. But just start from the beginning and go all the way to the end like we did. Abraham replied, "I thought, this is a godless place. They would want my wife and would kill me to get her. And she really is my sister, for we both have the same father but different mothers, and I married her. When God called me to leave my father's home and to travel from place to place, I told her, 'Do me a favor. Wherever we go, tell the people that I am your brother.' Then Abimelech took some of his sheep and goats and cattle and male and female servants, and then he presented them to Abraham. He also returned his wife Sarah to him. And then Abimelech said, 'Look over my land and choose any place where you would like to live.' And then he said to Sarah, 'Look, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all these witnesses. This is to compensate you for any wrong that I may have done to you. This will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is clear.'" What's funny is when he said, "Look, I'm giving your brother," he was actually being funny when he said brother. That was kind of made clear too. And it actually in here it has the apostrophes around brother too. He said, "Look, I'm giving your brother. I'm giving your brother this." But it was funny. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants so they could have children. For the Lord had caused all the women to be infertile because of what happened with Abraham's wife, Sarah. You know, I'm not sure if it's on the Safari app, Joy, but I know you can click on it. You can just go to the website from your phone, and it's mobile friendly. It's mobile friendly. At least it is on my phone. I'm not sure how it is on Androids if y'all have Androids, but it's mobile friendly where you can like click it and you can scroll up like it's a like it's a app, you know. But I'm not sure. I haven't checked the app. I only know that they have a book. You can listen to it being read online, and the website you can actually read it. But I'm not sure if it's in an app yet, if they ever want to put it in there. All right, last chapter for today, Genesis chapter 21, the birth of Isaac. The Lord kept his word and did for Sarah exactly what he had promised. She became pregnant and she gave birth to a son for Abraham in his old age. This happened at just the time God said it would, and Abraham named their son Isaac. 8 days after Isaac was born, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born, and Sarah declared, God has brought me laughter. All who hear about this will laugh with me. Who would have said that Abraham and Sarah would nurse a baby? Yet I have given Abraham a son in his old age. Hagar and Ishmael are sent away. When Isaac grew up and was about to be weaned, Abraham prepared a huge feast to celebrate the occasion. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and her Egyptian servant Hagar making fun of her son Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, get rid of that slave woman and her son. He is not going to share the inheritance with my son Isaac. I won't have it. This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. But God told Abraham, do not be upset over the boy and your servant. Do whatever Sarah tells you, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. But I will also make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, because she is your son too. So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food in a container of water, and strapped them on Hagar's shoulders. Then he sent her away with their son, and she wandered aimlessly in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water was gone, she put the boy in the shade of a bush. Then she went and sat down by herself about 100 yards away. I don't want to watch the boy die, she said, as she burst into tears. But God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, Hagar, what's wrong? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Go to him and comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants. Mind you, he wasn't a little baby like little Bible stories tell you. This boy was like 12, 13 years old. You'll get those details. So actually, you can tell the details just by reading it a little bit on the ages of when he had Isaac from the time. I think he had Ishmael when he was 90. He had Isaac at 100. I think that's right. So he's about 10 years old. But yeah, if you go check that out, he was a couple years older because he was about to be weaned. How old was he? So he was about 12 years old. He grew up and was about to be weaned. Yeah. So the boy was about 12, 13 years old. Isaac was. So don't think he was like this little baby off up in a corner under a tree. But God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, Hagar, what's wrong? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Go to him and comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants. Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well full of water. She quickly filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy as he grew up in the wilderness. He became a skillful archer, and he settled in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother arranged for him to marry a woman from the land of Egypt. Also, if you go back and read, if you remember, after Sarah died, Abraham actually went back to Hagar, right? They changed her name in here, so nobody ever really made the connection, because I was wondering, as I was doing my stuff, I was like, how in the world did he have, I thought he just had Isaac by Hagar. As I was doing some studies and it was getting into some of Abraham's other children, I'm like, wait a minute, okay, so who did that come from? Oh, so this woman, they give her a different name when she comes back on the scene after Sarah dies, right? But if you read, and it also shows it to you in the Legends of the Jews as well, and they specifically tell you that this was another name for Hagar, Isaac's mother. Yeah, I'm sorry, no, Ishmael's mother. Yeah. And so when I read that, everything started clicking with the other children and stuff. I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, so that was You learn some good information when you read just past this book, and it just fills things in for you. Okay. Abraham's covenant with Abimelech. About this time, Abimelech came with Phicol, his army commander, to visit Abraham. God is obviously with you, helping you in everything you do, Abimelech said. Swear to me in God's name that you will never deceive me, my children, or any of my descendants. I have been loyal to you, so now swear that you will be loyal to me and to this country where you are living as a foreigner. Abraham replied, yes, I swear to it. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about the well that Abimelech's servants had taken by force from Abraham's servants. This is the first I've heard of it, Abimelech answered. I have no idea who was responsible. You never complained about this before. Abraham then gave some of his sheep, goats, and cattle to Abimelech, and they made a treaty. But Abraham also took 7 additional female lambs and set them off by themselves. Abimelech asked, Why have you set these apart? Why have you set these 7 apart from the others? Abimelech replied, Please accept these 7 lambs to show our agreement that I dug this well. Then he named the place Beersheba, which means well of the oath, because that was where they had sworn the oath. After making their covenant at Beersheba, Abimelech left with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned home to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and there he worshipped the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham lived as a foreigner in the Philistine country for a long time. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Genesis 19 through 21. So now let us start our new book, My Big Toe. Book 1, The Awakening. Remember, it is a trilogy. Book 2 is Discovery, and book 3 is Inner Workings. I ain't telling y'all got to go get the other ones, and we will get to them. I'm just not sure where they're going to come in the lineup yet. Christy, hey, girl, hey. All right, so this book should make a whole lot more sense to you now since we read that CIA document that was released, because it got into some of the stuff that he also ran into and he began testing, right? So let us begin. My Big Toe Awakening, and it is by Thomas Campbell. It's book 1 of a trilogy unifying philosophy, physics, and metaphysics. And they also have a website, www.my-big-toe.com. In fact, I'll type that in for you, just in case. I'll type it right. Yeah, okay. Paste it over here. And you know what? While I was doing some research, it's funny how I actually even found out about this book. I was doing some research on consciousness, right? How the brain actually works. And so I was just going through different videos and just trying to find some, trying to like vet resources. So listen to what they're saying, going back into checking some things. And I forget exactly whose video I was watching, some doctor I was watching, but then I actually decided to scroll through the comments, you know, because I'll do that a lot of times. I'll go see what's happening in the comment section, because the comment section sometimes is gold, and people who know a lot more sometimes than the people actually doing the video, they'll drop some nuggets down there. So I'll be searching for those little nuggets too throughout the comment section. You got to go through a lot of foolishness sometimes, but there's always a nugget or two down there from somebody that's wise. It's just going to drop something, right? So I actually found it in the comment section of somebody, and I found out the person that dropped it was actually a physicist. I'm like, oh, because I checked into the person that left the link, you know. So before I clicked on the link, I asked, because I didn't want to click on nothing that had like porn or whatever. So I clicked on the person who left the link, and I checked out their page. I'm like, oh, they got some good stuff. Okay, they seem decent. They don't look like they'll leave anything crazy. That's when I went back and clicked on the link, and I followed this thing through. And it gave this book. And so I started checking into it. And it was good enough information for me to go ahead and just purchase the Audible just to get a little bit more information. And I was hooked once I got into the book. I was like, whoa, this is golden. Okay. Synopsis. My Big Picture Theory of Everything. My Big Toe. A trilogy unifying philosophy, physics, and metaphysics. Book 1. Okay, this is just giving an overview of what each book is about. And they actually have a book to where it doesn't break it up into 3 like I have it, but they actually have one book and all 3 books are in one volume. So if you get the one with all 3, it'll be like a thick book like this, but I got them broken up. I don't know, it just helps my mind be able to take it in a lot better because I broke it up so it don't look like so many pages. And this is this is like 288 pages. Okay, anyway. Book 1, Awakening. Section 1 provides a partial biography of the author that is pertinent to the subsequent creation of this trilogy. This brief look at the author's unique experience and credentials sheds some light upon the origins of this extraordinary work, the unusual associations, circumstances, training, and initial research that eventually led to the creation of the My Big Toe trilogy are described to provide a more accurate perspective of the whole. Section 2 lays out, logically justifies, and defines the basic conceptual building blocks needed to construct My Big Toe's conceptual foundation. It discusses the cultural beliefs that trap our thinking into a narrow and limited conceptualization of reality, defines the fundamental big picture, epistemology, and ontology, as well as examines the inner workings and practice of meditation. Most importantly, Section 2 defines and develops 2 basic assumptions upon which this trilogy is based. From these 2 assumptions, time, space, consciousness, and the basic properties, purpose, and mechanics of our reality are logically inferred. And remember, we're reading this because it's going to help us remove the spookiness in the whole spiritual realm, right? Things that were considered secrets that shouldn't be secrets to us. Things that we just kind of do by default that we learn in church about spirituality is going to help us understand better. And it's going to help us to realize that it's not just a set-aside thing for the church or a set-aside thing for this charismatic group of people, right? Prayer and meditation is like a worldwide human being thing, and people approach it from different understandings, but they're essentially doing the same thing because the same thing is happening inwardly. And they describe their experience based on their culture's language, which off-puts other cultures who have been taught that what they're doing is wrong and is demonic, and it's absolutely not, right? So it's helping to break down these barriers. And it's teaching us what's actually happening on the inside when we choose to run after our Creator to figure out what the heck is going on. Who am I? Who is you? Right? Okay. Book 2, Discovery. And book 2 starts with section 3. It's 6 sections in all, and it's 2 sections per book. Section 3 develops the interface and interaction between we the people and our digital consciousness reality. It derives and explains the characteristics, origins, dynamics, and functions of the ego, love, free will, and our larger purpose. Section 3 develops the PSI, the psi uncertainty principle, as it explains and interrelates psi phenomena, free will, love, consciousness, evolution, physics, reality, human purpose, digital computation, and entropy. Section 4 describes an operational and functional mode of consciousness that further develops the results of Section 3 and supports the conclusions of Section 5. The origins and nature of digital consciousness are described along with how artificial intelligence, AI, as embodied in AI Guide, leads to artificial consciousness, which leads to actual consciousness and to us. Section 4 derives our physical universe, our science, and our perception of a physical reality. The mind-matter dichotomy is solved as physical reality. The mind-matter dichotomy is solved as physical reality is directly derived from the nature of digital consciousness. Book 3, Inner Workings. Section 5 pulls together Section 2, 3, and 4 into a more formal model of reality that describes how an apparent non-physical reality works, interacts, and interrelates with our experience of physical reality. Probable realities, predicting and modifying the future, teleportation, telepathy, multiple physical and non-physical bodies, and the fractal nature of an evolving digital consciousness reality are explained and described in detail. So this is going to talk a lot about out-of-body experiences, astral projecting, which is the same thing, really. They're going to get into the mechanics of it and how it happens and how you can like do it on purpose, right? Which clearly we know you can do from the CIA document that they released, right? Okay. Section 6 is the wrap-up that puts everything discussed in sections 2, 3, 4, and 5 into an easily understood personal perspective. Additionally, Section 6 points out My Big Toe's relationship with contemporary science and philosophy by demonstrating a close conceptual relationship between this toe and some of the establishment's biggest intellectual guns. Section 6 solidly integrates My Big Toe into traditional Western scientific and philosophical thought. And then we got the contents, which we're not going to read through all the table of contents. Just know that they're there, and it's a few pages long. Then they have the acknowledgments. He's acknowledging the one, which is Pamela, his wife, the one. They got fellow travelers, those who helped them in this, the major contributors of this book, and the studies, the science, the references. He names out a lot of them. The hired help, those that help him actually put it all together. Family and non-contributors, right? Okay. Preface. Author's note to the reader. Yes, you should read this preface. I understand that many readers have little interest in or patience for lengthy prefaces or forewords. And this is pretty lengthy, but I think it's good and you definitely should read it. Listen. I understand that many readers have little interest in or patience for lengthy prefaces or forewords. The first question is always, should I take the time to read this ancillary text, or can I skip it without missing anything important? Most of us are eager to zip past the preliminaries and immediately sink our teeth into the meat of the main text. Anticipation and expectation push us to get on with the real thing. We, of Western culture, are an impatient, goal-oriented people driven towards endpoints. In our rush to the finish line, we take little notice of the journey that gets us there. Such a misappropriation of emphasis often squanders our opportunities because more often than not, the tastiest and most nourishing part of life lies in experiencing the process, not in attaining the goal. By end of section 6, you will no doubt agree that these books are, well, different. As such, they require a different approach. The preface and foreword of the My Big Toe trilogy are integral parts of the story because this trilogy blazes an original trail far off the beaten path. It is essential to include introductory material that can help prepare you for what lies ahead. I know that you are eager to get on with it and discover if this trilogy delivers the goods, but rushing on toward that goal too quickly actually reduces the likelihood that you will get there at all. The function of the preface and the foreword is to maximize the return on your reading investment. The preface provides an overview of the tone, structure, process, and mechanics of the My Big Toe trilogy. The foreword establishes a broad view of the trilogy's content and lays out a rough map of where you will be going on this unusual journey. It provides the context and focus wherein the trilogy's content is most easily understood. The foreword and preface together improve comprehension and minimize frustration by providing a global view of the forest before you begin your descent into the trees. I strongly suggest that you adopt an attitude of patience toward gaining an understanding of the profound mysteries and ancient secrets that are logically unraveled by this new physics. Dana said, where did you make this connection in Torah? That this is something y'all desires us to do. I'm still trying to make this connection because there are things we can do, but doesn't mean it's what y'all wants us or ordained us to do. It's about meditation, Dana. Y'all says to meditate on his word. A lot of people don't really understand what meditation is, right? They really don't. They don't understand the mechanics and why it develops us and how it develops us, right? So if you actually understand it instead of going into it blindly, and mind you, right? We are back in the day as we were developing, we actually had teachers full of the light and understanding of Torah, and they taught us appropriately. Now we're so far off the beaten path, we can't tell our right hand from our left. And these things were actually taught to them. How to meditate, really, how to meditate and be able to actually go into the source of Yah, right? Because if you're able to sit down and meditate, you can focus your mind, focusing it on Torah, right? But if you don't actually know how to connect yourself by looking at your overall life, making sure your overall life lines up with it, and actually learning what to do with your body to connect yourself, to allow your spirit to be open and connect. It's like everybody off doing their own thing. And it's crazy, right? So this is helping us along the way. For those that want to understand how it works, you don't have to. If somebody, you can just kind of watch somebody or listen to somebody. But for those who need like a deeper understanding, just to kind of make sure and you can kind of adjust on the way, especially if you don't have the ancient sages teaching you like they did before. Like we got all these distractions. Everybody's a sage. Everybody's a guru now, right? People don't know what to believe. Some people getting misguided information, right? In my quest for searching for the ancient sages and those who could teach me truth and not just what they learned from somebody else, people who actually practiced it and tested. That's just the way I work. Some people operate a different way, but I guess the way I'm wired, I tend to ask more questions. I'm like, okay, how do we know? Is there, I don't know, maybe it's just my scientific inquisitive mind. I want to make sure this is going to give me some good results and ain't gonna land me somewhere crazy, right? Because I also homeschool my children and I have 1 billion children. I'm required to teach them and I ain't trying to peddle to them no garbage. So I need to really understand what's going on. That's why I'm taking you through my path. That's how it's connecting to Torah, right? For those who don't really know how to meditate and actually know what happens to the body, because there is something that happens to the body scientifically. Right? So that's why we're taking this path. I'm taking you through my journey, right? So that's why. So we're learning about meditation and what actually happens with the body on the inside. So if you understand it, you can easily just go in and connect to Yah. It really is that much more easier. Okay. Hold on. Okay. The foreword and preface together improve comprehension and minimize frustration by providing a global view of the forest before you begin your descent into the trees. I strongly suggest that you adopt an attitude of patience toward gaining an understanding of the profound mysteries and ancient secrets that are logically unraveled by this new physics. My Big Toe Picture Theory of Everything, or My Big Toe, will take you to both the beginning and the end of time. And toe, actually, he actually spelled it out. My Big Picture Theory of Everything he shortened Theory of Everything to T.O.E., toe. Hence the title, My Big Toe, or My Big Theory of Everything. My Big Picture Theory of Everything, My Big Toe, will take you to both the beginning and to the end of time. It will dive deeply into the human heart as well as probe the limits of the human mind. It will define the significance of you and provide new meaning to your experience. It will help you realize and optimize your potential. It will develop a wholly new scientific understanding of both your inside and outside world. You may find it more productive to pace yourself by depth of comprehension than by percent of completion. I read that again. You may find it more productive to pace yourself by depth of comprehension than by percent of completion, which is why I decided to break this up, right? So after we finish this, we're going to go into the other book called Meditation from Ancient Egypt, and we're going to see how it was done from their perspective and how they looked at it. So when you go through that book, as we read through that, this will make even more sense. And what the CIA released, it'll make even more sense. So now when you go into prayer, you can go in like fully understanding and believing that when I go, I should get answers right when I go. Like, you know how people go pray and meditate for an answer from Yah to hear something, and it's like, okay, the answer ain't came yet, and you don't know which way you're going, right? Even when you come out, if you don't get an answer, you will know why you would need to wait. The church say, oh, it means just wait on God. Okay, but why? But coming out of meditation, actually connecting and understanding, being taught how to do it, you will know why you have to wait. And if you have to wait, right, if you don't get the answer right then, if you have to wait, you will be told exactly why you have to wait. And the only reason you have to wait is because you couldn't fully comprehend what you needed at that moment. You need a little bit more time to pass, and there is a little bit more information that you need, right? That I've learned. Okay. You may find it more productive to pace yourself by depth of comprehension than by percent of completion. Avoid rushing from concept to concept the way children pursue presents on Christmas Day. Take your time. A feast for heart, head, and soul is best ingested little by little, bite by bite, with many thoughtful pauses and much careful cogitation to aid digestion. Genuine breakthroughs must be absorbed slowly as existing paradigms grudgingly dissolve. And it'll help break up all that, especially if you come from the Christian world, all that Christian dogma. Familiar paradigms, like a favorite teddy bear, can be extremely difficult to let go. Familiar paradigms, like a favorite teddy bear, can be extremely difficult to let go, right? Sometimes we still cling on to a lot of the stuff that the church wrongly teaches us. Every successful journey, regardless of how long or difficult, begins with a single step that is animated by gumption, directed by goals, and repeated as often as necessary by dogged perseverance. On this particular journey, the preface is located at step 1, the foreword at step 2, followed by the 3 books, Awakening, Discovery, and Inner Workings. I have carefully aimed the content of this scientific and philosophic exposition at a general audience of varied background. You do not need a scientific, philosophical, or metaphysical background to understand the content of the My Big Picture Theory of Everything trilogy. No leaps of faith or beliefs are required to get where these books will take you. A determined and tenacious truth seeker, a sturdy, independent intellect that is by nature open-minded and skeptical constitutes the optimal reader. I read that again. A determined and tenacious truth seeker, a sturdy, independent intellect that is by nature open-minded and skeptical constitutes the optimal reader. There are no prerequisites. If you have a logical, open, and inquisitive mind, an attitude of scientific pragmatism that approaches the elegance of fundamental truth and the thrill of a breakthrough, you will enjoy this journey of personal and scientific discovery. Under the best of circumstances, the successful communication of this trilogy's content will require much from both of us. This work presents many unique and daunting challenges to the effective communication between author and reader. Worldviews are not casually picked like fruit from a vendor's cart. To make the necessary connections, we must dive deeply. He answered your question, Dana. To make the necessary connections, we must dive deeply. Far beneath the foundation of your intellect, your culture lays out a template for your worldview upon the core belief systems that define your perception of existence. The basic assumptions that support your notion of reality are not seen by you as assumptions at all. They are accepted without question as the most solid of all facts. That is simply the nature of culture, belief at the bone and sinew level of awareness. The point is, the concepts presented by this trilogy are likely to challenge the belief systems of your culture, regardless of what culture you come from. Material within My Big Toe may challenge your familiar assumptions, beliefs, and paradigms to the point of serious discomfort. If that discomfort leads to a profitable resolution, I am pleased. If it does not, I am saddened. My goal is to be informative and helpful. I encourage you to take what you can profitably use and leave the rest. There are enough new concepts and unusual perspectives presented here to support and generate a multitude of books. I have purposely left much unsaid at the periphery in order to stay focused on the central idea of developing a big toe. Though the trilogy remains from beginning to end tightly focused on its primary objective, I will occasionally take short aside trips in the form of asides to add color, explore related connections, and insert topics of special interest and practical value. Hopefully, you will find these side trips so interesting and informative that you will gladly excuse their interruption. So when they say, here's an aside, he's about to do what I do. He about to tell you a little story of what happened to him. And that's why I love this book so much, this whole trilogy, because he integrates his life and how he grew and how he began to understand patterns, even from things when he was a child and even things he experienced when his children came along and what they began to experience. This is why I love this book so much. He really makes something scientifically that kind of just blew your mind while you were in school. Like, I don't know what you just said, and I'm just winging this test. I pray to God, help me pass. Right? He makes it so understandable. Joey said, I'm ready to let all the foolishness go. Yes, look, okay. Though the trilogy remains from beginning to end tightly focused on its primary objective, I will occasionally take short side trips in the form of asides to add color, explore related connections, and insert topics of special interest and practical value. Hopefully, you will find these side trips so interesting and informative that you will gladly excuse their interruption. Some effort will be required on your part to bridge these asides in order to maintain the logical continuity of the larger discussion. To make sure that you are never confused about whether you are reading an aside or the main text. Asides are indented, have their own special font, and are clearly marked at the beginning and end with dingbats that look like this, or it has sideways triangles. That's what he called dingbats. So that's when a little side story, or whether he getting off on a rabbit trail starts, right? You know, y'all should be used to that by now with me and all my stories. If a secondary aside resides within a primary aside, it is indented yet again and marked with double dingbats. So if he's telling a story within inside of a story, it's going to have two of those sideways triangles or a double dingbat. Okay. When an aside fills an entire page, it is difficult to judge how much of the text is indented. Consequently, when this condition occurs, dingbats are placed in the header to let you know that the text is part of an aside. Thus, a casual glance is all that is required to determine if the text you are reading is part of an aside, and if so, at what level. You may find the text to be challenging in some places and obvious in others. What is too challenging or too obvious to each reader is mostly dependent on the experience and understanding of that individual reader. I'll read that again. You may find the text to be challenging in some places and obvious in others. What is too challenging or too obvious to each reader is mostly dependent on the experience and understanding of that individual reader. It is my intent to never speed through this exposition at such a rate that you cannot appreciate the scenery, nor to wallow about repetitively in obvious, though from time to time, depending on your background, some may feel that I occasionally do both. Although the language of American English, the language in which these books were originally written, is decidedly poor in non-physical concept. Hold on, let me read that again. Although the language of American English, the language in which these books were originally written, is decidedly poor in non-physical conceptual descriptors, it does have the advantage of being unusually rich in communications and information technology descriptors. The latter, oddly enough, is what allows me to convey the former. As strange as that may seem, it is the pervasiveness of modern science and technology, especially communications and data processing technology, that provides the conceptual tools required to produce a model of the larger reality the Western mind, or more broadly, the Western attitude, or more accurately, the Western belief system, can relate to, understand, and work with. Science and technology have advanced to the point where their applications and understanding have begun to mirror some of the fundamental processes of existence. We of the 21st century have only recently acquired the necessary concepts to understand and appreciate the nature of the larger reality within the context of our contemporary Western point of view. Previously, knowledge and understanding of the big picture and our existence in it was comprehended and described by ancient sages in terms of metaphors that were pertinent to their cultures and specifically created for the benefit of their specific audiences. Today, we find these once practical descriptions to be largely symbolic and irrelevant to a modern scientific view of reality. Philosophy, theology, and science find themselves at odds over what is significant. I am a scientist. This trilogy is the result of a long, careful scientific exploration focused upon the nature of reality and the individual. Preconceived notions will be more of a hindrance than a help. It is the task of this trilogy to clear and completely construct your consciousness, your world, your science, and your existence in a general, logical, scientific way that comprehensively explains all the personal and professional data you have collected during a lifetime. An overarching big picture theory that explains everything may seem highly unlikely, if not absolutely impossible, but it is not. Take heart. Good science and human ingenuity have consistently delivered the impossible for at least 200 years. Be open. History repeatedly demonstrates that the appearance of impossibility is most often the result of limited vision. Patience will be required. This adventure of mind, science, and spirit is complex and will take significant time to properly unfold. If it were immediately obvious, it would either be old news or you would be reading a short journal article instead of a trilogy. A keen mind that is skeptical and open is the only ticket you need to take this journey. Based on the feedback from those who have preceded you, I expect that you will find this voyage into the depths of elemental consciousness and fundamental reality to be personally enriching. You will be pushed to think a few big thoughts and ponder a few big ideas, but the conclusions you eventually come away with will be entirely yours, not mine. These are not books that are set out to convince you of anything or persuade you towards a particular point of view. At every turn, you are strongly dissuaded from becoming a believer. Data, facts, and measurable results are the exclusive currency upon which this trilogy trades. Reading the My Big Toe trilogy is not likely to be a passive experience. If you decide to seize the opportunity to climb out of the box, you will likely end up doing some difficult work. You will always be encouraged to think for yourself and come to conclusions that are based on your personal experience. Despite all the serious cogitation, we are also going to play, laugh, and have some fun as we go. Much of what you believe to be true about yourself, your existence, and the nature of reality Much of what you believe to be true about yourself, your existence, and the nature of reality will be challenged. If you are open to exploring a bigger picture, these books will make you think and think again. Most readers will not consider this trilogy to be an easy read. Merely following the logical processes and sequences as they swallow up old paradigms will require some focused effort. On the other hand, significant growth and learning is rarely easy. If easy, it's rarely significant. That was good. Contrary to my best efforts, sections 2, 3, 4, and 5 remain somewhat conceptually interdependent. Each section will be better understood and make much more sense after reading the other sections. That could not be helped. Reality is a unified whole thing, with each of its parts inexorably intertwined with the others. This trilogy's 3 books and 6 sections develop the conceptual content of My Big Toe more or less sequentially. Consequently, reading the books or sections out of numerical order provides a less than optimal experience. However, understanding My Big Toe is much more dependent upon reading the entire trilogy than it is upon reading it in any particular order. The nature of reality and of the typical reader is such that we must sneak up on My Big Toe one concept at a time. I'll read that again. The nature of reality and of the typical reader is such that we must sneak up on My Big Toe concept. I still read it wrong. Hold on. Let's start over again. Take 3. The nature of reality and of the typical reader is such that we must sneak up on My Big Toe one concept at a time. We will examine the big picture from multiple perspectives to ensure the design and structure of the whole. We will examine the big picture from multiple perspectives to ensure the design and structure of the whole becomes clearly visible. If things seem to get a little far out every once in a while, Hang tough until it all pulls together into a coherent, complete picture. For the reasons stated above, a slow and careful reading will optimize your investment. Take your time and meander through these books at a relaxed and unhurried pace. If you become bogged down, it is better to go back on. If you become bogged down, it is better to go on and come back later if you want to, than it is to feel as if you must read every word in the order in which it appears. It would be unfortunate for you to miss seeing a part of the forest that may be important to you because you became lost, exhausted, or discouraged, wandering unproductively among the trees in another part. Throughout my big toe, I have used a seeding technique to sneak up on some of the more difficult ideas. I often plant conceptual seeds that briefly bring up or introduce an idea within the sections, chapters, pages, or paragraphs that precede a full and thorough discussion of that idea. I do this because many readers will find the concepts presented within my big toe to be totally unfamiliar. Comprehension and understanding of this trilogy is significantly improved if the reader is at least somewhat prepared for the major conceptual discussions. Questions may occasionally leap into your mind as you read. Hold on to your questions, or better yet, write them down as you go. Most will be answered within a few paragraphs or pages. If you have unanswered questions after completing section 5, these can be productively used as the initial focus of your own quest for big truth, a subject that is taken up with gusto in section 6. Sound like I wrote the book. Well, I'm going to take that as a compliment. Thank you. Thank you very much. I did it. I wish I had. My mind run around too much for me to write a book like this. I ain't going to say that. I take that back because I could become more disciplined in my later years. So forgive me, Father. I don't want to speak no curses on myself, you know. Let me finish reading. Okay. If you have unanswered questions after completing section 5, these can be productively used as the initial focus of your own quest for big truth, a subject that is taken up with gusto in section 6. Be careful not to lose sight of the big picture as a result of being overly focused on the ideas. It is easy to get twisted around details that strike an emotive resonance with your belief. I'll read that again. It is easy to get twisted around details that strike an emotive resonance with your belief. If something you're going to believe, I'm sure quite a few things that you currently believe is going to get punched in this book. You know, it might be a little tender, but just stay in there. Stay in there. We're going to figure it out together, y'all. Look, don't get too out of pocket when them little pressure points is touched on you. Okay. It's easy to get twisted around details that strike an emotive resonance with your belief. The winning strategy here is to get a glimpse of the entire forest, not to argue about the color of the moss growing on specific trees. Control your passionate interest in the coloration of moss, or you may entirely miss what is important. And oh my gosh, aren't we doing that today? I mean, not us, we're coming out of that, but isn't that most of what Israel is doing, most of the earth, right? You getting lost in the forest, you arguing over what color the moss of the tree is, right? You missing everything else in here in this forest. That is something of that ain't something we should be arguing about, right? But we get off on these little rabbit trails and stuff, arguing about things that don't matter, completely missing the big picture, right? Ridiculous. The winning strategy here is to get a glimpse of the entire forest, not to argue about the color of the moss growing on specific trees. Control your passionate interest in the coloration of moss, or you may entirely miss what is important. One final note before you begin. Those who know me well, along with a few of the initial readers, have suggested that I forewarn you about my sense of humor. If you read something in these books that could be interpreted as humor, sarcasm, condescension, arrogance, silliness, inanity, or all of the above, it is probably only humor, or occasionally humor with a touch of sarcasm. If you find yourself unsure of how offended you should be, I suggest that you temporarily suspend your judgment of the author's mindset. I am told that eventually, by the end of section 4, you'll be familiar with my stealthy humor and informal, chatty style. Consequently, a later judgment may be more accurate. The structural anatomy of my big toe is laid open like a frog on the dissecting table in the paragraphs below. Most readers will find that this overview provides a helpful perspective on how the book you are now reading fits into the overall My Big Toe trilogy. My Big Toe is designed as a 3-book trilogy. It is packaged as separate books for those who are not sure of how big a bite they wish to take. My Big Toe is designed as a 3-book trilogy. It is packaged as separate books for those who are not sure of how big a bite they wish to take, and as a more economical 3-book set for those who are confident they want it all. Each book contains the same dedications, synopsis, table of contents, acknowledgments, preface, and foreword, as well as its own acronym list and 2 unique sections of content. Though the table of contents displays the contents of all 3 books in the beginning of each book, the contents belonging to the other 2 books are cast in light gray instead of black. Although chapter and page numbering starts anew within each of the individual books, the 6 sections are numbered sequentially across the entire trilogy to add a sense of structural continuity. Book 1, Awakening, contains the first 2 sections. Section 1 provides a partial biography of the author that is pertinent to the subject matter. Its function is to shed light on the origins of this unusual work by providing a look at the author's unique experience and credentials eventually led to the creation of My Big Toe. Section 2 lays out the basic building blocks needed to develop this toe's conceptual foundation. Many of the concepts initiated in Section 2 will be more fully explored in later sections. And clearly we read this already, but since I started, I'm going to just keep going. Book 2, Discovery, contains the middle 2 sections. Section 3 takes the information gained in Section 2 and develops its implications in more detail and depth while relating it more directly to the reader's personal experience. Section 4 pulls together the ideas of Section 2 and 3 while developing the additional concepts required to bind it all together into one consistent whole. Section 2, 3, and 4 are carefully designed to sequentially work together to produce the fundamental understanding that is necessary to comprehend Section 5. Book 3, Inner Workings, contains the last 2 sections. Section 5 presents the formal reality model in detail. Section 6 is the wrap-up that puts everything discussed into an easily understood perspective. Additionally, Section 6 points out My Big Toe's relationship with contemporary science and philosophy by demonstrating a close conceptual relationship between this toe and some of the establishment's biggest scientific and philosophic intellectual guns. Section 6 integrates My Big Toe into traditional Western science and philosophy. There is a place in cyberspace, www.mybigtoe.com. This URL is not case sensitive, but the hyphens may be required. Set aside for you to share your experience, exercise your intellect, voice your opinions, vent your angst, or simply hang out with your fellow travelers. You can send email to both the author and the publisher from the mybigtoe.com website, as well as acquired all Big Toe books. There you can keep up with the latest in Big Toe info, happenings, chit-chat, reviews, research, and discussion groups. Tom Campbell, December 9th, 2002. Where we at? An hour 15. Let me read a little bit of this forward before we pause. Yeah, it's pretty. It ain't that long. Maybe I just read it all. Okay, yeah. We'll see. Let me start. Forward. A conceptual orientation. Without the proper perspective, clear vision produces only data. The point here is to give the reader an initial high-altitude peek at the forest before we begin our trek into its depths. In this forward, I will describe where you will be going and what you should expect to accomplish. It is always helpful to know where you are headed, even if you have no idea of how you're going to get there. This conceptual flyover is designed to minimize the disorienting effect of total unfamiliar territory. Both the structure and the content of your perception of reality are culturally dependent. How a Tibetan Buddhist monk or an American physicist would describe reality is as vastly different as the words, expressions, and metaphors that each would employ to make such a description. What would make sense and be obvious to one would seem to be lost and out of touch to the other. If we can rise above our cultural bias, we have a tendency to ask, or at least wonder, which description is right and which one is wrong. They seem clearly incompatible. Certainly both could not be equally accurate and correct. If we are more sophisticated, we might ask which portions of each description are right or wrong and search for areas of possible agreement, as well as define areas that appear to be mutually exclusive. That is a better approach, but it is still wrong-headed. Neither of the above approaches, though the second is much more expansive than the first, will find truth. Which is right or wrong is the wrong question. It represents a narrow and exclusive perspective, which helps its owner to better attain his or her goals, which goals are more productive and lead to growth and progress of the individual, to happiness, satisfaction, usefulness to others. These are somewhat better questions because they focus on practical results and on the measurable effects that each worldview has when applied to individuals, as well as the secondary effects of those individuals have on others. However, something important is missing. How does one define, realize, and measure the satisfaction, personal growth, quality of life, and fulfillment of individual purpose that is derived from each worldview? What is the standard against which the achievement of these goals is assessed? Now, we have a set of questions that have the potential to lead to personal discovery in pursuit of fundamental truth. Big picture significance and value have replaced little picture, right and wrong, as the primary measure of worth. Fundamental truth, big picture truth, or simply big truth, though absolute and uniformly significant to everyone, must be discovered by each individual within the context of that individual's experience. No one approach to that discovery is the right one for everybody. The significance of little truth, on the other hand, is circumstantial and relative to the observer. Truth exists in all cultures. It is only understandable to an individual when it is expressed in the cultural language, symbols, metaphors, and concepts of that individual. Oh, yeah, I text her this morning.
Don't worry about it. Don't
Okay.
I hear exactly what you said.
Yeah. It is the intent of my big toe to capture scientific and metaphysical truths from multiple cultures and multiple disciplines and present them within one coherent, self-consistent model that the objective Western mind can easily comprehend. After all, yeah, my big toe. My hand's cold.
Baby!
Woo!
Sheesh. Come on, babe.
My hands are freezing.
I see. Come here. Let me help you out.
I'm gonna put them on you.
Babe, no, just.
How you gonna warm them up?
Come on, easy. Woo! Sheesh, yo, you cold, man. Why are you so cold, man?
Well, I put on a pot of coffee so I can hold my mug.
Do it again. All right, yeah, I can handle that. I can handle that. God, girl.
My hands are freezing.
You be down here sacrificing yourself for the people. Golly.
Taking forever to heat up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Truth exists in all cultures. It is only understandable to an individual when it is expressed in the cultural language, symbols, metaphors, and concepts of that individual. It is the intent of my big toe to capture scientific and metaphysical truths from multiple cultures and multiple disciplines and present them with one coherent, self-consistent model that the objective Western mind can easily comprehend. After all,
these people right here. I'm about to say, who in
Oh.
the world is he? I know, but I'm about to say, who in the world is them folk?
after all, a toe theory of everything must contain and explain everything. That's a tall order. A big picture theory of everything, or big toe, must include metaphysics, ontology, episiotomy, and cosmology, as well as physics and other sciences within a single, seamless, integrated model of reality. That is what the My Big Toe trilogy is all about.
Rub it, baby. Rub it.
Truth is truth, but communicating a truth to another is a difficult undertaking fraught with misunderstandings of meanings and interpretation. Big truth, like wisdom, is not something you can teach or learn from a book. It must be comprehended by individuals within the context of their experience. Each of us comes to an understanding of reality through our interpretation of our physical and mental experiences. Overstanding 777, he said, "Aw."
Huh?
They said, "Aw."
Oh.
The experience of others can, at best, provide a useful model, a framework for understanding, a perspective that enables us to comprehend and interpret our experience data in a way that makes good practical sense. The best teachers can do no more than offer a consistent and coherent understanding of reality that helps their students find the larger perspective required to discover big truth. Which is why I say y'all should be practicing in your own prayer time, actually praying and meditating, doing it on your own, right? So you can begin having personal experiences of growth. So this can kind of click in better, because it won't really click for real if you're just doing a bunch of reading but not doing anything to practice it, right? Okay. Which is why I've chosen to hold off on our what you call it?
What you call it? Say it, baby.
The Zoom thing. The Zoom will live so we can get and share experiences, because you ain't had enough time to practice yet. Such a model. Let me go back.
What you talking about?
Sharing experiences, spiritual experiences and stuff. Yeah. The experience of others can at best provide a useful model, a framework for understanding, a perspective that enables us to comprehend and interpret our experience data in ways that makes good practical sense. The best teachers can do no more than offer a consistent and coherent understanding of reality that helps their students find the larger perspective required to self-discover big truth. Such a model is only correct and comprehensive if it accurately describes all the data, physics and metaphysics, all the time, under all circumstances, for everyone who applies it. The usefulness of a model depends on how correctly it describes the data of experience. A good model should be predictive. It should explain what is known, produce useful, new knowledge, and provide a more productive understanding of the whole. I read it again. It should explain what is known, produce useful, new knowledge, and provide a more productive understanding of the whole. If my big toe communicates something of significance to you by resonating with your unique knowing, then this particular expression of the nature of reality suits your being. If it leaves you untouched, perhaps some other view of reality will speak to you more effectively. So maybe you need to find somebody else's perspective, right? Which is why we're bringing in different perspectives about meditation and how it operates. Because if it doesn't click here, maybe it'll click here, right? But at least we're going to hear it from different perspectives. They're talking about the same exact thing. Something based on your personal life experience will resonate with you. And then when you get it, you're going to get it from everything else we read. You're going to be able to see it clearly from all the point of views, right? Okay. I'll read this again. If my big toe communicates something of significance to you by resonating with your unique knowing, then this particular expression of the nature of reality suits your being. If it leaves you untouched, perhaps some other view of reality will speak to you more effectively. The form your understanding takes is not significant. It is the results that count. If you are prodded to a more productive understanding, you are on the right track. The expression of reality that most effectively nudges your understanding in the direction of learning, growing, and evolving a higher quality of being is the right one for you. My big toe is not the only useful expression that big truth can take. Nevertheless, it is a uniquely comprehensive model of reality that speaks the language of the Western analytical approach. This big toe trilogy fully integrates a subject, personal, and holistic worldview with objective science. East and West merge, not simply as a compatible or mutually reinforcing mixture, but as a fully integrated single solution. We bring them together. The two separate parts are not really separate. We bring them together and we can see them as a whole, right? This big toe trilogy fully integrates a subjective, personal, and holistic worldview with objective science. East and West merge, not simply as a compatible or mutually reinforcing mixture, but as a fully integrated single solution. When some people hear the word model, they imagine a scale model, a miniature version of the real thing. My big toe has nothing to do with scale models. A model is an intellectual device that theoreticians use to achieve a more concrete understanding of an abstract concept. Models are often developed to describe an unknown function, interaction, or process, something that lies beyond our current individual experience in terms of something more comprehensible. The model itself may closely resemble the reality it describes, or merely describe its inputs and outputs. In either case, do not confuse the model of reality with reality itself. Please repeat that twice before going on. The model itself may closely resemble the reality it describes, or merely describe its inputs and outputs. In either case, do not confuse the model of reality with reality itself. Please repeat that twice before going on. Now we're going to go on. If you have enough direct experience and a deep understanding of what is being modeled, the model becomes superfluous. With no direct experience, the model enables an understanding that is otherwise impossible to attain. With limited direct experience, the model allows you to place your limited experience within the context of the consistent logical structure of the model. To those with enough experience to incite curiosity and formulate practical questions, the model brings a meaningful interpretation and explanation to data, experience, information, fragments of truth that otherwise seem hopelessly random and unconnected. The model of reality developed within this trilogy enables you to understand the properties and characteristics of reality, how you interact with reality, the point of reality, and the boundaries, processes, functions, and mechanics of reality. It describes what, the why, and the how, the nature, purpose, and rules of interplay and interaction among substance, energy, and consciousness. You will discover the distinction between the objective physical outside world and the subjective non-physical inside world of mind and consciousness is wholly dependent upon and related to the observer. I read it again. You will discover the distinction between the objective physical outside world and the subjective non-physical inside world of mind and consciousness is wholly dependent upon and relative to the observer, right? So what you see, you're going to be seeing it through your own eyes, through the filter of your own life and your own experiences, right? Which is different for everybody. So what you take from this is going to be different than somebody else, different from what somebody else takes based on their knowledge already, their development and understanding of the process we're going through. Some people be a little further ahead of others, right? My big toe describes, as any big toe must, the basic oneness, continuity, and connectedness of all that is. It systematically and logically derives the natural relationships between mind and matter, physics and metaphysics, love and fear, and demonstrates how time, space, and consciousness are interconnected, all with a bare minimum of assumptions. Additionally, it describes in detail the most important processes of our reality, how and why reality works. You will find the result of my big toe to be in consonance with current data and that it solves a host of long-standing scientific, philosophical, and metaphysical problems. The model of reality developed within my big toe is not the only valid metaphor or description of the nature of the larger reality. Nevertheless, this model is perhaps more understandable to those of us who are accustomed to understanding our local reality in terms of the processes and measurements of object causality. A materialistic or scientific definition of reality is sometimes referred to as Western because the notion that reality is built upon an inviolate objective causality lies at the core of the Western cultural belief system. My big toe is written to be especially accessible to this Western mindset or Western attitude. The West does not now have, nor has it ever had, a monopoly on a process-oriented, materialistic, and objective approach to existence and reality. We in the West have perhaps pursued science and technology more religiously than others and have no doubt added a unique cultural slant to our particular brand of consumer-based materialism, but the basics of what I am calling a Western attitude are thoroughly entrenched worldwide and expanding in every direction. The stunning success of science and engineering in the 20th century would seem to prove the usefulness as well as the correctness of this Western view. The result is that many people, whether from the east, west, north, or south of our planet, view reality from an objective and materialistic perspective that often coexists with some culturally based traditional form of religious and social dogma. Thus, a balance or standoff between our inner and outer needs evolves into a practical worldview that encourages Western material productivity. A pragmatic materialism that depends on objective causality is used to generate the appearance of a manipulatable relational stability on the outside, while a belief system of some sort provides the necessary personal security on the inside. To eliminate the discomfort of conflicting worldviews, the two ends of this bipolar conceptual dichotomy are typically kept separate and do not mix or integrate to any significant depth. Each supports the other superficially as they together produce a materially focused, responsible, upwardly striving worker with a good work ethic, cooperative values, and inclination toward dependency, and a high tolerance of pain. Because the Western mindset is growing and spreading rapidly, and because the human spirit often withers on the vine before beginning to ripen in such an environment, it is particularly important to blaze a trail to the understanding of the larger reality in the terms, language, and metaphors of this mindset. As a product of American culture myself, and as a scientist, I have endeavored to craft a model of the larger reality that not only appears rational to the objective Western attitude, but also provides a comprehensive, complete, and accurate model that Western science can build upon. And I think we're going to pause right here for the day, y'all. I mean, I'll be done in like 10 minutes. Nah, I think we need to pause. We need to pause. It's Tuesday. We got to pause. So we'll pause right here, y'all. And I'll do a quick overview before we get started. And we're going to finish this tomorrow, and then we'll actually start in chapter 1 or section 1. Delusion or knowledge. Is this guy nuts or what? So we'll pause right here. I had one. There you go. We'll pause right here. Get my page number. Page 33. All right, y'all. We'll pick it up tomorrow. Thank y'all for hanging out today. It is Tuesday, January the 18th, 2022. Day number 5 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1025. Today we read Genesis 19, 20, and 21. And then we started My Big Toe, or My Big Theory of Everything. We started that today, and we read pages 1 through 33. All right, so I hope y'all keeping up. I hope y'all ain't zoning out. Y'all gotta stay in there. It might be a little dry to some, but it might be really interesting to others. But if you hang in there, I promise you, y'all are in for a treat. Y'all are in for such a treat, especially his stories and stuff that he shared along the way. It gets so good. It gets so good. So just hang in there as long as you can. If you need to take a break, just go ahead, take a break. Let your mind air out. If smoke coming out your ears, it's okay to just pause and come back. It's all recorded. You can just jump back in later, right? Okay. So I'm hoping you guys will stick along, because I think it's really easy to understand. But once we get into the book from Egypt and meditation and how they explain it, I think it's a more relaxed, not necessarily relaxed, but it's like, oh, okay, And plus it's a lot of pictures and stuff in there too. He got graphs and charts in here, but just hang in there, y'all. I promise y'all. Just hang in there. All right, so with that being said, I think Bella's still asleep, so I'm going to go ahead and do the blessing today. I ain't even hear her jump down off the bed. She normally just jumps off the bed. I didn't hear that yet, so she probably still asleep. Even with her daddy coming down here, she ain't following him. Sis still knocked out. All right, y'all, so we're just going to go ahead and do the blessing. which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being, look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. And I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bruce.